All right, we are live. We are live, baby. We are live. All right, guys. What's up, y'all, man? Welcome to another episode of the Kava podcast. I have a special guest today all the way from Australia. I know it's early out there. I know it's six in the morning. six in the morning out there. But thank you for taking the time to get up really early and do this podcast with me. But like I said, it's one of my Tongans all the way from Australia. You guys might know him on TikTok. He's that uncle, that uncle that's always that uncle that's always drinking Kava. But I'll let him introduce himself real quick. So can you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, Docs. First of all, what's up, everyone? Thanks for having me. My name's Ilai Matangi. I'm originally from Tonga. I'm 31 years old, and I currently live in Western Australia, which is Perth. So yeah.
Perth. Malo Australia. All right. So the first question I want to ask you real quick. So how did you grow up?
How did I grow up? So I was born in Tonga. I think when I was like one. I'm the eldest out of 5 siblings. Yeah. And I think when I was like 1 year old, my family moved to Hawaii, to the States. And we lived in Hawaii for about 11 years. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you watch some of my TikToks, I still got that Hawaiian. I know some of the Hawaiian humor and the Hawaiian pigeon and stuff is because I grew up around that a bit from my cousins and all that. But we lived in Hawaii in Kona, I think it was. And Hawaii was I remember, from what I remember, that was home for me for like the past 11 years. Mm-hmm. And very family orientated. All my mom's family's from Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And so I was surrounded with all the cousins, the aunties, the uncles, full house, everyone sleeping just in, about like 12 people in like just 1 2-bedroom house, Mm-hmm. And I think when I was like about 13, we went back to the islands because Dad moved over here to Australia and he got a job here and it was better money. But we went back to the islands and we went to Fiji to visit. Mm-hmm. And I got to stay there with my auntie and I decided to go do a bit of schooling there. So then I stayed in Fiji. And so I stayed in Fiji for, get ready, bro, this is a tour of the Pacific right now. So I stayed in Fiji and then I was there for like 3 or 4 years. Yeah. And that's why I picked up on the Fijian culture, the Fijian language and everything like that. And then from Fiji I went back to Tonga for 1 year because I stayed with my grandma for a bit. In the Tongan culture, it's like your parents don't really leave you with family members, but it's like trusted family members that they if I go live with my grandma, it's pretty much the same set of rules and the same set of how they look after me as if my parents were around. And the reason why I was sent like that was the main reason I was sent like that is because my siblings in Hawaii, they were all born in the States, so they could stay in Hawaii, but I still had a Tongan passport, so I couldn't live there. And so that's why I was moving around. And then 1 year in Tonga, and then I finished my high school in New Zealand, where I done 3 years in New Zealand. And once again, being in New Zealand, picked up the New Zealand culture, the New Zealand theme and all that. And then I moved over to Australia when we finally, got a citizenship here in Australia. And I've been here since 2010, I think, in Australia. So I guess, being in all those different places has kind of like contributed to, who I am as a person now. Yeah. In all aspects of my life. Yeah. And sometimes I sit back and I think back and I'm like, oh, it would have been probably better if I just stuck in one place and had like, like a proper upbringing and not that my upbringing was proper, but it was, I look at some people and they got like long life friends that they grew up their whole life with. And, they belong to like a city or a town, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes I feel like I'm a bit like a drifter, you know, just floating here and there. But at the same time, I look at the positive side, and it kind of, you know, if I didn't go to these places, like I wouldn't have met, you know, such amazing people and learned such, you know, not, I mean, you know, I'm not trying to boast or anything like that, but you know, you wouldn't come across an islander that could speak like Fiji and Tonga and like, you know, and know like these cultures and the way these people in this places live. So I feel like on my way of growing up, that's kind of a plus for me. I think moving in around all those islands and all those places has done a lot for like what kind of person I've become.
Yeah.
And then staying in Australia, met my wife here, and then we started a family and everything. And so, you know, I don't think I'm going anywhere else because my wife's not going to let me into yeah. So then after that, it's just been you know, full on dad life and husband life. Even though I did move around, my parents were still really involved in my life. You know, like they still supported me financially. They still, you know, the phone. Thankfully, it was a phone call away whenever. So when I did come back to Australia and live with them, it was just like you know, I wasn't away from them. And the same thing with my siblings. Like we were, you know, my brother, he was raised by my grandma, so he went to school in Tonga most of his life, and my sisters, they stayed in Hawaii and stuff. But like when we all came back together, it was as if, thankfully, it was as if like, you know, we didn't grow up separately, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like we grew up all together, and my parents have always been involved, always been supportive in everything that I do. Thankfully, you know, Dad was able to work here and still support me through school, and you know, even till when I got married, even till now, they still, you know, they're always in my corner. So a lot of all that is the Ilai you see today.
That's funny. That's funny you said that you're a drifter. You know, I pretty much went through the same path that you. I'm a drifter too. You know, I was born in Australia, and then as soon as I was born, I lived in Australia a couple of years, and then I moved to Tonga, and grew up in Tonga. And then in high school, then I moved out here to America.
Nice.
It's funny. It's like, but when I got to America, I just stayed in, when I just lived in all my auntie's houses. I lived in one auntie in Utah, then moved to one auntie in Texas. You know, I spent some time in Alaska, and then I moved here to Cali, where I'm at right now. Yeah. So I was just constantly just moving, and like you said, like I thought about that too. I've thought about that too myself. Like, what if I just stayed in one spot? But then, like you said, like when you move in different places, like you like you learn a lot. You learn a lot from different people. But I think for me, I think the biggest lesson I got from moving to different places is I wasn't attached to things. A lot of people, sometimes they get too attached. If I lose this, sometimes, I feel like, especially today, everybody's attached to like material things. But for me, like whenever I moved, I just put it was just like my clothes on my back, and I just moved. And I feel like that helped me because like, it allowed me to like not be afraid to do things. So, if I see something, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to try it out. Right. Because that's been my whole life, just moving and not being afraid to try and not looking back. So I feel like that's something that helped me. So I want to ask you is, what was like, because you moved from different places your whole life, right? So what was like the hardest thing about moving and trying to learn in your experience, trying to learn whenever you moved to a different place? Was it like trying to adjust? What was the most difficult thing for you?
I think when I was still younger, it wasn't so much a difficult thing. It was more like an adventure for me. When I was younger, I was like, ooh, I get to stay in this country. Ooh, I get to, and like now when I look back on it, I think it wasn't so much when I was growing up that I found things difficult. But like now when I look back at it, I think it was also, yeah, I'll come after this. I think when I was growing up, like when I look back, it's more I think the fact that my parents weren't actually around.
Yeah.
That I kind of, even though they were on the phone and even though they visited me here and there, they weren't fully there to kind of you know, full on look after me, you know, be there physically, I guess.
Yeah.
And so when I was growing up, I guess I especially in my teen years, I tried to figure out life a bit on my own here and there.
Yeah.
Which led me to some, you know, pretty dumb decisions. And
yeah, we
so,
all do.
you know, I
All
guess,
of us,
yeah, and so, yeah, I guess now as a parent, like, that's become like my biggest fear is that I'll never be there for my kids. And when I say be there, I mean like in all aspects, like physically, you know, emotionally supporting them in whatever they're doing, and actually, you know, just being there. And then sometimes it makes me scared as a parent because I'm like, oh, I'm worried that the circumstances in life might lead me to a position where I won't be able to be there for my daughters, and they might try to figure out life the way I did, which, you know, is a path that I don't want them to go down. And so that's kind of like something that's always in the back of my mind. But I think I'm a big mama's boy, so it was being away from mom was one of the struggles, you know. I'd speak to her and stuff like that, but like I guess it was also a struggle when my parents weren't there for important things in my life. You know, I mean, you know, a Western Union call is nice, and sending the money over to, you know, for my ball, or sending the money over for my first rugby game or something like that. That, you know, that's nice and stuff, and I got family support, but it would have been nice, you know, to look out and see them in the stand, or look out and see them, you know, there physically. So yeah, I think the struggle was them not being there physically as I was growing up, and that being a thing that stuck in my head that has kind of made me become the dad I am. Like, you know, that's like one of my biggest fears is not being able to be there for my kids. But, you know, thankfully times have changed, and, you know, everything's going well so far. So yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, because, you know, when you're moving as a kid, like, you don't really think about it. You know, you know, you just listen and obey. You know, to tell you, hey, go here, exactly. You just go. But you don't really think about it. But then, you know, when you start growing up and then you look back, then you start thinking about all the things. Okay. But you never think about it when you're at that moment, especially when you're younger.
Exactly, you're totally right.
I want to ask you real quick. So, can you talk about like how was it growing up as a Tongan? Because you did say that, you know, you lived in Fiji, you know, you lived in Hawaii, you lived in New Zealand, and then you lived in Australia, where you live right now. So, you know, I'm interested to know your experience of being a Tongan man and growing up on those different places and different cultures. And also I want to ask you is how was the what was the difficulties of growing up as a Tongan growing up as a Tongan man in those cultures, and how did those countries or cultures see Tonga? Because for me, you know, I mean, I live in America right now, you know, and I know we talked about this before we got on the podcast. One of the main reasons why I'm doing this podcast is to showcase what Tongans are, because a lot of America, unless you grow up in Utah or in Hawaii, most people have no idea what Tongans are. The only person they know that's Polynesian is The Rock, you know, Dwayne Johnson, right? But nobody knows about what Tongans are. And I feel like that. So, you know, and of course, if you're Tongan, if you listen to this, and if you're Polynesian, you know, every culture has their stereotype, right? You know, of what they should be in or what they should be doing. You know, in our culture, Polynesian culture, you know, we only play sports. They play the men. You know, they play sports. They play rugby. We do yate. but nobody, but exactly. the society or
we're always good for labor work.
Yeah, labor work, right? And so there's not so the society that we grow up in, especially in different countries, there's not a lot of expectation to encourage or to push, motivate kids to do better. All right. So I want to ask you, so you went to Fiji, you went to Hawaii, you went to you lived in New Zealand. What was it like growing up as a Tongan, and how did the culture see you, and then what did they expect out of you? And I'm just interested to hear that experience because because I feel like the great thing about your story is you traveled the world, and so there's a lot of places that got to experience as a Tongan, and so I want to ask you, like, how was an experience for you, and how was it growing up as a Tongan? What did the cultures judge you or see you as a Tongan expect out of you, and what was that like?
Yeah. When I was growing up, my parents are two very different people.
Yeah.
My dad he's a hardcore, strict Tongan. The type that you can't go in your sister's room. He's really respectful. He taught us as we grew up how important the whahu is, and that whole hierarchy system in the Tongan culture. So he's really important on that. My mum, on the other hand, she's a very proud Tongan, and she wasn't so strict on those kind of things. Yeah. She made sure that we knew like the culture and the importance of I guess I could say they're strict in different ways.
Yeah.
I felt like because I'm not a big fan of the whole frabapa. I mean, I understand the frabapa thing, but like when I was growing up, it was more like you can't watch TV if your sister comes in, or if your sister comes in, you ought to go to the other room.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't agree with that because I feel like in a way it takes away that bonding of the siblings. Yeah, and it's more important that they teach them respect each other. And there's certain things that they shouldn't be talking about as siblings or witnessing on TV as siblings, and rather than making it some of my videos that I pull up, I know sometimes my dad looks at it and he just shakes his head. Yeah, go watch TV. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you want to say good morning?
Hey.
She doesn't remember. She's like, nah. Yeah, and so when I was growing up, coming back from school, going in the house, English was left at the door, which I'm really grateful for because, I'm able to speak Tongan and I understand the culture. My parents raised us, my dad raised us in a very Tongan way. Okay. He taught, like I said, he taught us the importance of culture, importance of family. And like, I guess I'm thankful for that because when I do go back to Tonga, I'm able to just like shape into that, It's not like when I go to Tonga, I'm some kind of like Palangi kid that, when I get there, my auntie or my grandma will be like, I'm like, oh, don't I get a bed or something like that, man? So, I'm thankful for that, because my dad's from Mava'u and they live in Utui. That's where my village is from, in Mava'u. And so my grandma's house is just your typical, it's just built up. There's nothing flash. Yeah. And every time I go back to Tonga, I just roll with the punches over there. If it's lunchtime and it's just a hakasiang and tele, and you're like, where's the corned beef at? It's not like that. Yeah. And I think in a way it's kind of made me raise my kids like that. The importance of being humble, the importance of being thankful of like what you have. Which is something that was taught. I feel like it's a Tongan and an Islander thing. That's kind of like installed in you the importance of being humble and the importance of being being thankful with what you have. Mm-hmm. But I think at the same time it does kind of backfire. Like how you mentioned, people think that we're only good for laboring, and people think we're only good for like the dirty jobs. Yeah. And I think that humble mentality kind of makes us think sometimes that like, you know, be grateful that I have a job, be grateful that this is earning money. And so it kind of stops my potential, your potential, you know what I mean?
Man, it's so funny that I just had this conversation with one of my friends, one of my tokos. And we were because we were just happy. We were talking about this specific topic that me and you were discussing right now. We were talking about how come we were talking about how come we don't push? How come Tongan kids don't push to do better, right? And then I told him, and he didn't agree with me, but I told him I think that I told him it's because of the island mentality, just to relax, just and also like you said, one thing my parents always taught me growing up was and which is a great lesson, right? Be grateful for what you have. But I think what happens is we grow up to a point that we're afraid to ask for more. Right.
Exactly.
So no, it's good to be grateful, but it's also okay to ask for more if you want something more, right? And then
it's funny you say that, because the first thing I think of is like when we used to get food in like public areas, and like when you're not full and you want to get some more, but mom and dad's like, go just like, oh yeah.
But it's funny. But then I come to America, and then what I hear in America is like, that's the culture here is like closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't speak up, you don't eat.
You ain't gonna get it,
yeah. So you have to ask, and you have to pursue the things you want. But you say you want to allow, the tupuhake da mui whawhetai. We've been talking because they teach us about the taukole. If we ask, then that's greedy.
Yeah, it's greedy. You're rude sometimes.
It's rude. It's rude. It's greedy. Manu. So they kind of like teach us that asking for more and wanting more is a bad thing, right? And of course, they tie it to religion, which makes it harder.
Makes it harder, yeah.
but talk about that, man, because I do want to talk about it, because I think that's important, and I feel like that's why a lot of us think that we're only good as the labor jobs or the dirty jobs, like you say, and then we never think that to ask for more, or ask for promotion, or ask to be a supervisor.
Exactly. Yeah.
But can you talk about that experience a little bit more?
Yeah. So I 100% agree with you. That thankfully I kind of walked away from that kind of mentality only as I got older and stuff. But like, it was always being humble, and I guess it's a beautiful thing to be humble. But at the same time, I feel like the way it was installed in me and a lot of Tongans and Pacific Islanders, that being humble means you just got to settle for this,
and accept what you give.
Yeah. And so that's the mentality that, not the mentality, but that's what Dad always taught us, when it came to like Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that. When we used to talk about like, oh man, my mates, they're going on holiday to this and that. And they'll say stuff like, now that I'm older, I kind of understand that that's all they could
give,
provide at the time.
Yeah.
Which I don't hold anything against them, but like, it was that mentality that was installed. Like, it's be thankful. They'll be like, be thankful you got a roof. Be thankful you got this. And so you grow up with that, and you think that when it comes, like you said, a job promotion, something like that, you can't speak up, or you can't argue or ask for what you deserve, because you don't want to step the line. When in reality, it holds your potential back. But then at the same time, I feel like in a way that draws out the other picture, what makes Islanders aggressive or Tongans aggressive, and like Ita, when they don't have those conflict resolution skills, because all they know is don't ask for it, and they'll be like, oh, I don't ask for it, it's not good. Yes, baby. Yeah. They'll know like, oh, I shouldn't ask for something.
How'd you bring your phone?
I don't. He's busy with the phone. You wanna go wake Kiara up? Wake Kiara up to make some breakfast.
No.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, side bit.
So in a way, like someone may want something, like say a job promotion. He may want it, or he may feel like he deserves it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to ask because it's be thankful with what he has. But that conflict of that hate and that loto ita and stuff, because he feels like he deserves it still is still within. And so when he does react, it's something that he can't just talk it out. I see a lot of Tongans that come here and in WA where we live, there's a lot of places that's farms where the workers come from Tonga.
Yeah.
And some of them, they can't speak up to the farmer when they're not happy with the work conditions and stuff like that. But then they go home and hanu about it and like ita. And so when they go to work, they have this ita thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, go do tell Nini you do it.
No, you do it.
I'll talk with you and go.
Okay,
So like when they get ita like that, and then they blow up, and I think the reason why they get ita like that is because they don't have the skills to actually just talk it out. Like I'm not saying palangis, but like people that grew up in a way where they know what they deserve and they can ask for it. They can just talk it out,
Yeah.
Whereas us Tongans, we go home and hanu about it and just talk about this and that, and it stays within our heart. And we have this like loto ita and stuff, and then next minute you're freaking punching in the boss or yeah. Sit down, watch TV, and I'll make some breakfast after this. But so Dad raised us like that. Mom on the other hand, she was pretty laid back. I grew up around my mom's family for a bit, and they're pretty laid back and all that. And then when I went to Tonga and I stayed with my dad's family, they're really strict on the whole whakapapa thing. They're really strict on like, when it comes to katoangas and stuff, they make it like a big deal. It's like you have to. I think that whole thing where you got to do because everyone's watching. Or like there's we gotta not that they try to be the best, but like it's more we have to do this fatongia because everyone else is doing it, And that's another thing I don't know.
It's like a showcase, It's a showcase.
Yeah.
It's like to show everybody, hey, I'm doing, my family's doing all right,
Yeah.
And we want to prove to everybody that you're not struggling.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the things that I want to we don't want people to know the whangata. We're struggling. We don't want people to know that if we want everybody to feel like to watch the family, just feel like that we're doing well as a family.
Yeah, that we got everything sorted.
Yeah. So that's why when they fight katoanga, when they do those functions, those Polynesian and church function, everybody's out there and trying to compete with one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for everybody watching, we have a special podcast today, and not only we get to have a podcast with Ilai Matangi, but we get to have a tour with his house, a special tour.
Oh, this is actually my mate's house. This is my mate's house. We're here for because I broke my hand a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm here for I had the surgery done a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Because we live out country. We live like 12 hours away from the main city. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah.
With my mate's house.
we got a special tour. Your mate's got mate. So tell your mate, hey, I think a lot of people have seen what your house looks like. That's cool. Yeah. No, I was just thinking about something you said, like you said that
please.
You said that as Tongans we don't really have the skills of talking things out, in a healthy way,
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Healthy way is the right word.
Yeah. So and I feel like a lot of that comes from in our culture. who we're not allowed to speak to our parents.
Yeah.
Right.
It's disrespectful.
Yes. Yeah. So whatever your parents say,
That's
you
it.
just listen. Just listen and do it. Don't ask questions. Don't speak up and disagree. So I feel like a lot of the reason why we don't talk and speak up for ourselves, especially when it comes to life and we get a job and try to do things for ourselves, is because we've been taught our whole life as a child that speaking up against your parents, your elders is a taboo, is a disrespectful thing. So that's why I can relate that to myself. Growing up, I was so afraid of asking questions. When you go to school and the teacher asks a question, hey, raise your hand. Raise your hand and to answer a question. Like I would never raise my hand ever.
Yeah.
I was so mad to speak up, and even if I knew the answer to the question or I had an idea, I would never speak up to raise my hand in school and to showcase myself. And I'll just be silent. I'll just be in the back, just in the back, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
And I look back at it and I was like, man, there was a lot of times in my life that there was an opportunity that was presented to me, and
exactly.
and that was a chance for me to express and showcase my own talent and my own mind, my own mindset, my own intelligence as a Tongan. But I never did. So, but most of my friends growing up in high school thought I was just like vale. I was,
they just didn't know the answer.
Yeah, just thought I was just most people were just this dumb Tongan, just not a dumb Tongan at school, and it's just because I never spoke. So, what do you feel like? Do you feel like that comes do you feel like that comes from our culture of not speaking up and to our parents?
I 100% agree, man. I feel like a lot of the healthy communication skills that we learn it comes from from our parents. It comes from our family, the people that raised us, our culture. It's like like you said, you can't speak up because if you go to a Palangi household and the parent and the kid has a disagreement, I'm not saying all Palangis have like a healthy conversation. I work in a school, and so I get parents that come in, and I've seen them sit there with their child, and they want to listen to the kid. They when the kid speaks, they listen. They don't, just because they're the parent, it doesn't mean they're always right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like when I was growing up, not only my parents, but like my aunties, my uncles, the people that raised me, it was always know your place. When they're upset, and when you're upset with something, you can't speak up because they'll be like, go ahead, get more fishy, or eat and like, even though one thing, you don't learn the communication skills in a healthy way, but two, you bottle that up, like that anger, you're not able to express it in a healthy manner, which I feel like a lot of the kids that I don't know in the States, but here in Australia right now, it's a really big thing with Islander teenagers is the aggressiveness and the violence that they're putting out in the public, and the whole we're attached to the stigmatizing of we're laborers, we got the dirty jobs, our brain is only good for sports and our athletic abilities. Another stigmatization is that we're only good fighters, when it comes to stuff. I joke around on my social media platforms, and I do skits and stuff about like, how Islanders can smash somebody or something like that. But, sometimes that's the only way we can express our feelings, or that's the only way we can express it in, that's the only way we know. And I get, I look back now and I start to realize that stuff. But like, I always get my cousins that come up here. Like I said, we live in a place where it's like the farming and stuff, and so we get like groups from Tonga that come and work here, and I get my cousins that come here, and like I see the way they, when we talk about something they don't like out in the community, and their first go-to reaction is like, "Masi, what if it all happened? Masi gonna do ta'i mate," you know? And it's like that's the automatic reaction, you know. It's like
that's
that,
true.
you know? And it's the automatic reaction is just like tuki or like get ita and like want to hit someone, and it's you know, I think that comes down to like the way we were brought up and how you can't express your frustration in the other way. But also too, it comes down to the way that like when we were growing up, smacking and hitting and stuff was the only way you can get things done. You know what I mean? Like it was only, you either go do that or you're gonna get a ta'i. And so we grew up with this mentality that like, if someone's not doing what you want, the only way to fix that is ta'i him, you know? And
we learned that from our parents, you know, as soon as we disagree and there's a conflict, the first thing they do is ta'i us.
Yeah,
you know, so we grow up thinking that's the only way to get things done, right? And then we think that's the only way you can react when somebody you can't disagrees with you. We see our parents hitting us. Okay, then somebody disagrees with me at work, and I'm gonna swing and do the same thing. And now we have this stigma in the world, in the culture that we're
violent people, which in reality we're actually not, you know. Yeah. I mean, I know the history is we were warriors, but you know, there's a big difference of warriors and freaking aggro people that are trying to punch everyone's head off when they can't get their way. But I guess it's because you can't communicate that, you know, that healthy manner. So yeah, I think growing up personally for me, when I was growing up, you know, in a Tongan culture and in a Tongan background and stuff, it's that culture, that communication is something that parents and like, you know, the grandparents and the aunts and uncles lack in teaching you. You know, and it's funny because they teach you the whole social side of things with like whakame, you know, like speaking in public and all that kind of stuff. And they teach you how to do that. But when it comes to speaking your needs and your wants and stuff like that, it's like you know, hey, you know, it's like that. With saying that though, I don't hold that against my parents or hold that against my, you know, the people that raised me when I was growing up, because I feel like that's the way they were brought up and like that's all they know. And so, you know, with me, you know, I'll be honest, I do catch myself doing it sometimes with my kids. And I, you know, sometimes I'll catch myself doing it where my daughter has something to say, especially my eldest, my teenager, she'll say something and I automatically have that ita, you know, like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, you know, speak like that. And then, you know, sometimes I blow off and then I'll walk out and then I start thinking about it. And I'm like, frick, this is where this cycle needs to, like, you know, needs to cut out. Because then sometimes I'll see certain traits in my daughter when we go out in public or like, you know, at a social function, especially like with the food and stuff like that, where she's like, oh no, this is enough, or like, oh no, this is where she limits her, you know, her potential. And you know, sometimes it kicks me in the gut. So I'm like, frick, you know, I'm doing this again and again. Like I'm just continuing on this cycle. And it is pretty hard cycle to like get out of because I was raised and
that whole life.
And it's like in the core, and you know, sometimes you gotta sit back and reflect and be like, bro, I don't wanna, because me as a person, like when I was growing up, I used to hate that. You know, I hate that feeling, you know, like especially when we have like whakataha family or something like that, and like it was just whatever dad said or whatever whoever's the leader of the house there says it, you know. And I guess it wasn't me being disrespected, it was just me being not agreeing. You know, and it's really difficult. But I guess that's my challenge as a parent now, is trying to swim away from those I guess bad habits, you say, or that old cycle.
Was there a point of time in your life that you spoke, that you had to speak up for yourself, and that really got, you know, that was the first time for you to actually to speak for yourself, and you know, and it may have caused some conflict, but you just felt in your heart like, no, I have to speak up. Did you ever have an experience like that with your own family?
Yeah, I've many times, especially with mom. My dad, when I was growing up, like I think dad's, as we got older, he became a bit more chill, and my dad's more about like, as long as you're happy, and you do you, like, but what mom is, she's more of a, no, I think my way is the best way, I think we need to do this way. And so, I've had times where, it's funny though, because when I do speak up, I have to break down, like I fully cry and stuff. And the reason why I do that is because I feel bad, like that I'm speaking up, which is, now I think about it, it's actually a really bad thing to feel that way.
I know.
It makes me think as a parent, I'm like, bro, I never want the day where my kids, if they need to tell me something, they feel really bad for telling me.
Feel guilty.
Yeah, they feel guilty. Yeah, but that's how I feel. And like I said, I don't hold it against my mom or my dad, but it's just what's installed in me, and it's like it's a struggle for me to open up to them and tell them, oh, I'm not happy with this, or I'm not happy with the littlest thing I'll talk about.
Yeah.
When I was in Fiji and I was growing up, my dad came to visit, and he came to watch. It was his first time ever watching a rugby game.
Yeah.
And he came from Australia, and he bought me these rugby boots. And at the time, these rugby boots were like the best rugby boots in Australia. Yeah. But you got to remember, when you play rugby in Australia, the grass is soft, eh? And so, like when you come to Tonga, bro, you're basically running on cement. And so, he brought these rugby shoes, and the studs were like, bro, they were like almost 3 inches long, man. Like, and like the soil in Tonga, when you run on Fiji, sorry, when you run in that, it doesn't go into the ground. Like it's like running on high heels, And so he bought it, and like it was his first rugby game, like to witness me play and stuff. And so, it was a pretty big game. And it was finals, and I got the shoes from him, and I was really thankful for the shoes, but I didn't want to wear it, I didn't want to,
because it's hurt your feet.
It hurt my feet, and and he's like, he didn't force me to wear it, but he just came and he's like, oh, I bought you these shoes. It's better you wear these shoes. Sometimes Islander parents do that, Tongan parents do that. They don't mean to like control you, but the stuff they say automatically shapes you and makes you like, because dad's like, oh, these shoes are really expensive. I bought it in Australia, and like, these are the #1 shoes, and I think it'll look good on you. And then, he'll say stuff like, and so I just automatically felt like I had to wear it. And so I played half of the game.
Yeah.
And bro, it was my legs were killing me. Like, I almost tapevad so many times because the thing wouldn't go inside the soil. And so at halftime, I swapped and I put the other shoes on. And dad came up at halftime and he's like, why didn't you wear those shoes? And I was like, oh, mama, and the comments like, Masi, oh, hell, I may shoe, when the cheap shoes or something like that. He's like, I want to get you these ones. I want to give you better stuff. And but I broke down to him, and I was like, I cried on the sideline. I was like, I can't wear it. Like it's sore. But I had that feeling of like guilt. It like automatically came up, and I was like, I'm sorry that I broke your heart, and I'm sorry that I'm not wearing your shoes. It's funny because I've never thought about this until you brought it up, and I was like, far out, man. This is little things like that little things like that make you think like, oh freak. This whole parenting cycle and this whole raising a kid in a Tongan way is sometimes they don't mean to be controlling, but it's just things they say that kind of make you feel, they automatically make you feel like you can't speak up or you can't. And so I played the other half with my old shoes and stuff like that. And after the game, I did feel relief that I was able to express it. But when I think about back now, it's more like I can't believe I had to like fully cry, and it wasn't just a simple process like say, nah, dad, I don't want to wear it. It's my foot sore. I'm gonna change it into the other one. Like, it's such a simple thing. But we make it into such a big such a big issue because you don't want to hurt their feelings, or you want to be disrespectful or show that you're ungrateful for what they've given. And I feel like those little things like that eventually come into like the big things, the life decisions and stuff like that. same scenario, but it's a bigger life decision. Is we live in, as I said, I live in the country.
Yeah.
My wife is from Brisbane.
Yeah.
If you probably know what Brisbane is,
yeah,
it's a different state, and her family's there. And we've had this plan of moving to Brisbane, and you know, and it's been a conflict with me and my wife because I can't speak to my parents about it. And the reason why I can't speak to about it because mom's had these dreams of like all our siblings getting all houses like just, you know, around the corner from each other, and we're gonna grow up. Our kids are gonna grow up all together. And she's ever since I started my university, and you know, before I got a proper job and stuff, that was the thing that was always installed in me. And it was like, you know, you're the eldest, you're the one that you know, your brother and your sisters and stuff. And mom's always installed like this thought that like we're all gonna grow, we're always gonna be together as a family unit. And I guess that's always been within me. And so when my wife started telling me that she wanted to move to Brisbane because of family and her mom's getting sick and stuff, it always became a conflict to me because in my head I was like, no, my life is already, my plan is already sorted. Which it wasn't my plan, it was mom's plan, but it's been installed in me. And so like it got to a point where like me and my wife were pretty, you know, having pretty bad arguments and stuff about the whole moving and stuff, because she was telling me like, speak to your parents. And the way I interpreted it was like, you know, like, you know, I know my parents when the time is, because the reality is I do want to move. But the reality is I didn't have the guts to speak to them. And it wasn't that I was scared of them. It was more that I didn't want to be disrespectful. I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to shatter this whole dream that mom had. And so like eventually, literally like 2 months ago, I finally spoke to them. And when I spoke to them, man, that guilt I had and that feeling, you know, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I thought I was like the eldest and I had this responsibility, and I feel like I'm going away from my responsibility. And after speaking to them,
how did she take it? How did she take it?
Oh, she did not take it well. My dad took it pretty well. He, you know, he was, I guess, because dad has been in my shoes before. You know, he had to move away from his family to find a better life for us, and then he was able to support his family back in Tonga. And so he was really supportive. Mom, she just broke down. She just broke down, and it's not so much what she says, but it's just, I guess, because I know the woman so well, I can just look in her eyes and I can tell that she's heartbroken. And so like now, whenever, you know, my kids say, because my kids are innocent and stuff, you know, they'll say stuff like, oh, Nana, I'm going to miss you when we go to Brisbane, or they talk about Brisbane, like it just stabs my mom in the heart, you know, and it makes me feel, it hurts me, but at the same time, now I'm able to think to myself and be like, you know, this is what I want, you know, and then I'm not disrespecting you. I'm not, you know, that was your dream and that was your goals, but that's not my goals for me. And so I think she's still trying to process it. But I think the reason why, because we're planning to move like end of next year. And I think the reason why my wife was always down my throat trying to tell me to say it was like, so she has all this time to kind of process it. And
to process it,
you know, But whereas me, honestly, because I thought I knew my parents, my deal was going to be like the last moment before we moved the next month. I'll be like, okay, we're leaving it. Which I look back now, I think that would have been really bad. So
that would have been worse.
Yeah, that actually would have been worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think not being able to speak up. You know, if there's any advice that I can tell like the young Tongans and the young Islanders now is, you know, if you're important too, you know, and you don't have, despite what your parents say about being disrespectful and expressing how you feel, it's not, that's just the way they were brought up and that's the way they think. But it's really important for you to express how you feel. And I think it's something that when you first do it, it's hard. But as you keep doing it, it actually, that's where the cycle can break, because that's where it creates like a good relationship between you and your parents, where you're able to speak up, you know, and you're able to talk. Like I said, when I was growing up and I was in my late high school days, I made some pretty bad decisions and like doing some stupid stuff that I would never dream of my kids doing as they're growing up. But I think a lot of that had to do because I didn't have open relationship with my parents, you know?
Yeah.
There were certain things I couldn't talk about, or there were certain things I couldn't speak about to them, or how I was feeling, or anything like that, you know, relationship or alcohol and all that kind of stuff. And it's because you don't have that skill to speak about it without any, you know, overwhelming emotions behind it. So that's that's me, bro.
No, it's funny. I have a lot of friends. You know, everything we talked about was real, and everything we talked about, like I've gone that, but you know, my own family growing up as well. And for me, you know, for growing up in here in America, and then you know, I have a lot of Tongan friends and family. I think the two biggest issues that I see why a lot of us struggle, especially the younger kids, is number one, you know, our parents forcing their goals and dreams upon us. I see that a lot. I see that, you know, the parents choose everything for them. They choose the school they go. They choose the career they go into, the job they go into. They literally, you know, they literally like choose everything for their life, and they don't allow the kids to make their own choices. And of course, you know, one thing about us at the Kauleka, you know, as kids, like we love our parents, man. Like, you know, and that's one thing about the Tongans. You know, we're have, you know, we're loving people, man. We have so much offer. You know, that's what we're known for as well in the world. But I just see that a lot. You know, I see a lot of friends of my friends doing, you know, living that life that their parents want them to live. And not necessarily not living what they want to do, especially when you're not allowed to go outside, you know. So you know, they're not allowed to go and socialize. They're not allowed to go to have fun with their friends and go to, you know, concerts, or, you know, just having a good time. You know, they're told to stay home, and then they just get depressed, man. They get depressed, and a lot of times, like I said, you know, didn't hola me up. Didn't hola me up, and they'll go try drinking and try doing drugs. Not because
they do things the wrong way.
Not because that's what they want to do. It's just because they've been kept inside for so long, and they, like you said, being bottled up, and they need to let go and the outlet. So, and that's one thing I see a lot. It happens all the time. And I think that what you said was good, man. Like, you gotta, don't be afraid to speak up and do what's good for you, and do what's best for you. And it's funny. I was doing a podcast yesterday with another Tongan. His name is Alfred from Colorado. He talked about his own struggle of what he went through, and then, you know, he shared it. He shared what you shared. Like, he finally spoke up to his parents. The one thing he talked about and he shared with the audience, he said, you know what, I know it's hard, I know it's difficult to speak up to your parents, but he said that a lot of times as kids we feel like that if we speak up, you know, we're afraid that they're gonna die, you know, they're gonna hit us, or they're afraid we're gonna get disciplined, or we think the worst thing is gonna happen if we say something. But he said that, you know, a lot of times for his parents, when he spoke up, his parents were actually understanding, and they were cool about it, right? So he said that, you know, you never know how your parents are going to react until you say it. But the thing is, like you said, they've been conditioned to treat you that way, because that's how they were raised.
That's how they were.
So sometimes we grow up as kids, we feel like our parents are too tough or too hardcore, or they don't care. It's not because they don't care, or they don't care about your opinion, or they don't want to know about. They don't care about.
That's all they know is.
So a lot of times we grow up thinking that, oh man, our parents don't care about what we think. No, I think our parents. There's a lot of parents out there that really do care about what you think, but they've been taught not to have that relationship with their kid. Because that's how that's how they grew up with their relationship with their own parents. But you'd be surprised. But you'd be surprised if you actually speak up. There's sometimes either, like you say, either your dad or your mom will support you. One of them will support you.
That's true. That's exactly how when I spoke up, you know, Dad's reaction, because I thought Dad was gonna, not that he was gonna get angry, but I actually thought he was gonna be more hurt, and like, because you know my dad's, he's a really hard worker, and you know, I've gone through my last years of high school as a international student. I don't know in the States if they pay school fees and stuff, but here in Australia and New Zealand, you got to pay for education. For even like high school and you know, all the schools. And so my last 3 years of high school, you know, I was an international student, so like my fees were, you know, were way expensive than, because I wasn't a citizen of New Zealand. And then when I came to Australia, my first 2 years of my degree was international rate. So Dad was, you know, he was working just to educate me. And so they don't say any, they don't, he's never once ever said to me that, you know, I work hard for you to get this life and you treat me like, he's never once brought that up. Like, I think the word in Tongan is tō, you know, they say like, oh, I've done this for you, so you need to do this to me. They've never once said that to me. But it's not only that, but it's when me growing up and looking at my parents, you know, the way they live, sometimes I think to myself like, oh, my parents could have had such a better life if they didn't spend all that money on me for my education. And so that automatically builds this guilt within me that I have to listen, I have to do what they need, because if it wasn't for me, they would have probably had a better life. And so I was thinking that when I was going to tell Mom and Dad that we're going to move, I thought Dad was going to react in a way where it's going to be like, man, I worked all these years and I had this dream for you, and you just turn around and want to pick up and leave. And but when I talked to him, and you know, I was really caught off guard by his reaction, and I was like, oh wow, like, you know, he was actually supportive. So yeah, you're right. Sometimes I guess you would never know until you speak up. What the reaction is going to be. And but sometimes the parents don't even know that you have those feelings. You know, you speak up and they're like, what? You know,
it just everybody's assuming. Everybody's assuming, but nobody, because there's no communication.
It goes back to that communication skills that we lack.
Our parents think we're all right, and then we think our parents. But like so you just gotta. That's one thing I want to share with others. Like, look, no matter how hardcore your mom is, no matter how tough your dad is, just speak up, because you never know. You never know until you ask how they're gonna react, and then based on their reaction, then you can figure it out. But one thing I know, our parents, once they know that's how you are, that's how you think, and that's how you feel, even though they may take some time to process it, like your mom.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I mean, they may react in a way they thought you, or they may react in a way. But once that's finished, at least they know what's in your heart. What's in your heart.
They know what's in your heart, in your mind, and they love you too, just as much as you love them. But at least they know, okay, this is how my son and my daughter really feels, and then you can take it from there. But if you don't say anything, then
it's never gonna.
That's gonna happen. So that's that I see that a lot, and just like you said, living the kids living the life that the parents want, and it's really, really hard to do. And then by the time they don't actually start living their life until they get older.
Yeah, that's true.
And what's sad for me, what really saddens me is when I see a lot of my friends, and I see a lot of young Tongans and young Polynesians that have so much potential. You know, some of them have the minds to be a doctor, have to be a lawyer, to be a therapist, whatever, you know, be a therapist, to go into, like, whatever they want to do, to be a singer, you know, to go to Hollywood, to be an actor. But then they hold it back because, you know, they feel like that. If they choose themselves, it's selfish. I feel like that's how we're raised. If we do something for ourselves and not follow our parents, you know, you're selfish. You know, okay, offer that offer. Man, that's one of the things I hate. When I heard a lot is when I started doing things for myself, or when I was that's one thing my family will always tell me. Oh, see, tamasi that offer. Talu ngahi ko ke leka ngahi ko papanga ko but I fulahi pe Ngalo ngalo. I was like, no, just like, damn,
nah, that's not the case, man.
Bro, I love you guys, man. I will never forget. I'll never forget where I come from. But for me, I have to do me, man. If I'm gonna be better, if I'm gonna live a better life, and not only because I want to help you guys, I have to be free to do my thing. To do my thing, and a lot of times I just felt so guilty, and I even question myself sometimes. Like even when I was doing pursuing my own path and my own life to be successful, but sometimes I'll question myself like, am I doing what am I doing? Is it right? Am I wrong? Is this the right path? Is this the right way? Am I going to go to hell?
Yeah, exactly.
So I start all these negative feelings and questions. It's just because we've been instilled that that their way is always the right way.
It's the right way, yeah.
And then and like you said in your story when when you shared about your dad giving you the cleats for your rugby cleats, even though you expressed to him a valid point, would you?
Yeah.
You were right. Your feet was hurting.
Yeah.
But we just learned to accept the right and the wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This is one thing I see, that a lot, because of the way we accept things, and we become submissive to just accept what things as they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see this a lot of Tongans, when they go into situations where it's wrong.
Yeah.
And like especially when it comes to violence at home, especially when they see bad things at home.
Yeah. It's just
they don't say anything and they just accept it. And I have a lot of friends, a lot of friends that being abused, beaten at home, and because of the way we brought up, we can't speak against our parents. Everything our parents say is right, is always right. And then there was friends. I have friends that I grew up with that I never knew that these things were happening at home.
Yeah.
I thought everything was good. I go to their house, not everything was good. Yeah. But then later down the line, then they finally come out. Hey man, no, I was abused. I was abused by my mom, by my parents, or by a family member, and it was just sad to see. And there was a lot of violence going on, but nobody wants to say anything, and or even go to the police because we feel guilty.
Yeah, I think it goes. It's a guilty thing, and it's a shame. Like they don't want to be judged.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why they don't want to be judged is because our people are such judgmental people, man.
Oh man,
I mean, we can admit it that we're not, but the reality is we're so judgmental, and like how I talked about the katoanga and and doing a pola. I've heard it many times. We'll go home after a kaipola and stuff, and my auntie in the car, or someone I run into, they'll talk about the state of that pola. They'll like rate it.
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, "Man, you're going to family." It's comments like that.
Yeah, it's like
that make other people not want to speak up because they don't want to be judged. Or young girls that get pregnant. It's such a getting forced into marriage and quick like that, and it's all that stuff is because they don't they're worried about everyone else outside the circle, watching what's happening, or they don't want to be judged, I guess, or they're shamed. And yeah, man, that's I don't know. Yeah, I that makes me, that itches my gut when I think of stuff like that.
I know, man, but that's something I see every day. Like, man, you just hit it on the nail. I see, because we're so afraid. I guess and I talk in our culture, we raise to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. So so to mess up, to make a mistake, is it's something that we don't never want to do, to disappoint our parents.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not even. But as I look back at it now, I thought when I grew up, that okay, my parents want me to. My family wants me to live a good life, so that a perfect life, so that way I don't shame the family name.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of understood it. I understand. Okay, I gotta represent the name and carry our family name. But then I look back at it now. It wasn't even about the family name. It was just about they cared more about what people thought about.
About
us,
the family.
About the family more than what I was going through. So like my suffering wasn't as high in the priority than the perception of how people saw our family.
Yeah.
So that was priority. Hey, as long as people think that we're doing well, then that's the only thing that matters. So
that's all that matters. Yeah.
Even though if the kids are suffering, the kids are not doing well.
Yeah.
As long as people think we're doing well.
Yeah.
That's that, in their mind that was cool. So for me, there's just it just didn't make sense. And then of course, the kids. That's how I guess me and my friends were talking about it. In the Tongan culture, the kids is the way is how the parents showcase themselves.
Yeah,
they live to the kids. They live to the kids. So
exactly.
they use their kids as a way I don't want to say it as a tool, but they use it as a tool. So we're like playthings. I don't want to say that. I don't think that's the right word, but we kind of use as a tools to show everybody that okay, our family is doing well. Well, but there's but they don't realize we have feelings too, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's all about the success of the kids shows how good of a family unit you are.
Yeah,
and how
exactly.
Good of a parent
you are. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see it in like mothers that talk about their son being a doctor and stuff. He's a doctor in Australia, or he's a doctor in America, and he's doing this and this. You see other mothers like giving the whole money. Yeah, you should be following that, or you should be like that. It's sometimes they don't have to, parents or like people that raise us don't have to say it directly to us, but it's certain comments or certain way they look or say things that just automatically puts you in this state of mind and pressure that that's the bar, you have to be up there, and like, even though that's not what you want to do, it makes you kind of feel like I need to do that for my parents. But your parents are more like, it's more like you need to do that for everyone else to see that we got a doctor in the family, or you need to do that to see that, we got a manager of a company in the family, something like that. So it's a lot of pressure, man. As a kid, as a child growing up in a household like that, it's a lot of pressure, and I can relate to that whole pressure thing, because when I first started uni, I didn't want to do uni. I mean, like now when I graduated with my degree and stuff, I'm really thankful for it, and I'm happy I went down that path. But to be honest, like the first 2 years when I was in uni, bro, I was. I failed most of my units. It was more a social thing for me. This was like before I got married and kids and stuff. It was more, you wouldn't find me at the uni library. You'll find me at the uni pub. I'll be at the pub like, drinking with the boys, and just, it was more of a social thing. Always looking forward to like whatever social event was on. And I just hated it. But the reason why I stuck with it was because, like I said, my dad broke his back to put me into university. If it was up to me, those first 2 years, I would have been like, nah, I don't want to go to uni. I want to do this. I want to just go and, find whatever job that makes the money, and I don't really care. Like after years of uni, and when I graduated and I finally had a kid and stuff, my kids, and I'm able to like provide for them through my job that I got with my degree. Then I sit back and I'm like, oh. And sometimes it makes me think, I'm like, were they actually right the whole time in sending me to uni, or did I just change as a person and I guess matured and thought like, oh, this is the better way. But the pressure you feel, like, that you have like, there's this standard that your parents or like your family have, and they put it on you, even though they don't tell you directly that that's the standard, you already know that that's the standard. And for you to maintain that standard and like live up to that thing, it's really hard, because if you do maintain that standard, you still have the pressure, because the pressure then becomes, you don't want to go under the standard. You know what I mean? If you stuff up one time. So like, if you grow up being that good kid that goes to Lotu and like takes part in the youth church and stuff, say you're a girl that like takes part in Lotu and you're really involved with the youth and you're really involved with like you know, you're starting, the way your parents are looking at you is like, you're going to be like the next Kava or something like that, yeah? And so you have that standard up there, but then next minute, boom, she becomes pregnant, you know, out of the random when the parents thought she was staying home every night. You know, it's like once you drop under that standard, it's like you feel like you got to stay there. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, say if you're studying 1-2 years and then you get pregnant and you drop under to that standard where they expected you to graduate with a degree. Once you go under that standard,
it's over.
Your life becomes a single mom, or it's not that Bachelor of Science or that Bachelor of thing that you were striving for before. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, once you disappoint your parents, they're like, nah, go ngata angabe, just be like that. You know, which is really sad. You know, it's go now you, instead of finishing your degree or finishing your dream job, you're gonna be a mom now and raise your kid, which, you know, it kind of holds us down again just because you stuff up. And so yeah, it's a lot of pressure, man.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that's one of the thing. I was having a podcast with one of my tokos here, and he was talking about that you know, in our Tongan culture, we don't really talk about how we deal with failure.
You
know, so you know, if you live life and you work towards something, you know that failure is a normal part of life, and part of success. That's how we grow. That's how we learn to become better. You know, that's a normal part of the process in life. But in the Tongan culture, failure is not acceptable.
It's
not.
You
know, there's so many. You know, in the Tongan culture, once you fail, then that's it. And the only thing they deal with is just give up. And like you said, like a lot of the Tongan culture, right? They have the standard of expectation of what they want out of you. If you fail it, if you make a mistake and you fall short or you mess up, they just give up on you and move on to the next kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They just give up on you. Okay, what's the next kid that we have?
Yeah.
We'll put our dreams into him.
Into this kid. Yeah.
He's the most important thing, and they just disregard all the other kids. And that's why sometimes kids feel animosity against their own siblings.
Yeah.
Because their parents give all the attention to one kid because that kid hasn't messed up yet.
Yeah, hasn't messed up yet.
He hasn't messed up yet. So they put all the attention on that one kid, and and all the other kids feel some type of way. They're like, and that creates tension and conflict between the own siblings. All because of the parents not showing equal love and equal, especially when you fail. Like there's something that if you fail, they just like, hey, it's okay, you messed up. Let's work it out. Let's figure out a way to get back.
Yeah.
But we don't have that. But we don't have those conversations.
Solving. Yeah. Do you reckon it's a lot of the parents that do this kind of stuff is parents that like the migrant parents, you know, the parents that have moved to Australia, America, New Zealand, and like they've moved to that country and they have all these opportunities they see and all these big things, but then they know, or they feel like their level of English, their level of education and stuff can't get them to that dream thing. So like they raise their kids thinking like that's the dream. You know, they say in the States, living the dream.
Yeah.
They feel like they can't live the dream. So the kids, they want to, you know, I feel like it's, like I said, I feel like it's unintentional of the parents. They just want the best for you. But the best they know is just, that's the dream, is get a great job or get a great normal. And then you just get paid good money, and that's the dream. And so they make one of the kids, I guess they find one of the kids hoping that kid will live their dream that they had when they moved to like a foreign country.
I feel like if you come from the islands and if you come from struggle as a parent, especially the immigrant parents, you know, that's a normal thing to want a better life. Because I understand. I mean, it's natural for anybody to want better life. You don't want your kids to live the same life you went through.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the thing is that I think that what the problem is they don't know how to. They only know one way to do it. It's just so they want that for the kids, but the problem is they raise their kid the same way they were raised.
Yeah.
You know. So and I think that's the biggest problem. But They don't understand it, but like you and me, we grew up with our Tongan parents, so we understand that things have to change in order to want something that's better.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think that they have that mentality to understand change. I don't think change. The growth mindset, the change mind to change. I don't think that they had that taught to them growing up. All they've known is just okay, do the same thing over and over, and hope it works. All right, but for me now, I understand. Hey, things don't get better unless something changes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not the type of person like I'm not. There's not common sense to keep doing the same thing if it's not working.
Yeah, exactly.
So me and you grew up in that type of mindset. That's why me and you are able to change and that we're not afraid to change and speak up and do things differently than our parents. But that's the difference between us as our mentality as kids compared to our parents. Their mentality is more fixed. It's more fixed. Just
really fixed.
Die big.
Die big poto.
That's how we.
Die big to.
Oh yeah, die big to die. Die big.
Die big is CEO of the company.
Die big is tuku alo mohe molume. We don't have to. Tuku fana, fuka fana. But it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, it's funny that me and you are talking about this, right? But we're not aware of this growing up, eh? But then when you look back, I mean, what we're talking about right now, these are really deep issues, like big problems in our community, in our culture, in our families. But we don't realize it until we grow up and look back at it and how we lived our life. Like, man, that's actually not a good. It's not a healthy way to grow up as a kid. Healthy way to grow up as a kid. But you look back at it, man, how did I? But that was how I grew up.
That was how
So I want to ask you real quick. You have kids now, eh?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you have a relationship with your kids, with your daughter. So how is those conversations? How is it the way you raised? I know you shared a little bit, like you raised her a little different from how you were raised, right? Because you want her to be more open and able to speak up, eh? So have you ever had a conversation with her and then she spoke her mind to you, and then how was that, and like how she feels growing up in the culture and the Tongan culture that you set for her? Does she feel like it's a struggle, and then you tell her, look, no, this is not a struggle. What I went through was a struggle. So do you have those conversations with your daughter? I'm interested to hear because she's growing up because one thing I always see is like the Tongan kids grow up. You know how I don't know. You know how when you're the eldest, you grew up when your parents is the most tough and hardcore.
Yeah, exactly.
But then over the years they get softer.
So you're the practice child.
Yeah, the practice child. But then the younger siblings, the younger siblings, they grow up now, but their parents are more open and more loving.
Yeah, more lenient towards them.
But they still feel like it's hard.
Yeah.
And you tell them, hey, brother, dude, this is not hard. But
you don't know what that is, yeah.
So yes, I'm interested to hear like the experience of what your daughter thinks about how you raise her in the culture, teaching her about the Tongan culture, but also teaching her the new ways of things. Does she feel like it's hard growing up under you, or like?
Well, I hope she doesn't think it's hard growing up under me, but like I've it's like I said earlier, it's something that I've grown up with, and it's the parenting that my parents done is something that's drilled in me for years and years. And so I still do catch myself, having that defense mechanism. She asked me, because she's 15, she's asked to get a job, and first time she mentioned it to me, like I immediately felt threatened, I was like, I felt threatened that she's going to be independent. I felt threatened that, she's not gonna need me anymore. You know, he's not. And because I feel like my role as a dad is to support and be there and do everything, and like I guess it can come under that umbrella control. You know? And I feel like once she becomes independent and she can make money and stuff, that bit of control is gonna slip away. And so when she first mentioned it, I felt defensive, you know. And you know, I was like, bro, you don't need to do what? You think you're grown up now? Like, you know, you think the money that I bring home is not good enough? You know, it automatically kicked in like that, you know. And then I was able to like step away and like think about it and like be like, you know, she's 15. It's funny because I tell my kids, because I got all girls, I got 4 girls, no boys, and so like it's funny. Yeah, but suffocating. So I tell my girls, like, you know, it's funny because I tell them my dream is for them to grow up one day and like never be dependent, you know. And I tell my daughter, like, I don't want you to be dependent on like a man, for your level of success or for the level of person you are. And it's funny because I'm preaching that to her. But as soon as she takes that first step to independence, I'm like, no, sit down. You know, and that's what kicked me in the gut. I was like, bro, like this is you know, this is her way of learning how to become independent. And here I am saying, oh, bro, I need you to, you know, go out in life and be independent. But as soon as she wants to take that step, I'm like, no, come sit down. And so I was able to like, you know, sit down properly with her, and you know, I was like, you know, I'm sorry that I spoke like that, and you know, I didn't actually tell her that I was feeling threatened, but I just told her, I was like, oh, you know, I feel like it's my job to look after you and pay for this and pay for that. But if you do want to work, it's totally up to you. Over the holidays and stuff, I just don't want school to like get affected by working and stuff. And so we were able to talk about that. And so, you know, like now I'm able to, you know, now I'm over because it's school holidays now. The plan is to help her with her resume and try to look for a job for her over the school holidays. But I guess if that was back to me speaking to my parents, I feel like it wouldn't have gone that way. It would have just been a simple, not, like, you know, or something like that. It's funny because they say that when you're too young, but then when you get older, they're like, go and work, and you know, you need the money now. But like then you go to work like when you're 19, 20, and you know you don't have that experience under your belt of working. And so it's because they don't want to let you out in the big world, you know. And so that's I guess being a parent, I still do catch myself in the ways that I brought up, and I'll be honest, man, it makes me hate myself really much. Like, you know, sometimes when I catch myself doing stuff that not in a bad way towards my parents, but when I catch myself doing controlling stuff that makes my kids feel like their opinion or their thoughts don't matter, like it's always a big kick in the gut for me. But I always, because I've been through that and I know how it feels, I've always been able to drop my pride and drop my father role down and be like, nah, this is what I done is wrong. I need to go speak to them and sort it then and there. Which I'm really thankful for that I'm able to have that. But I feel like I wouldn't have been able to have that if I didn't go through what I've gone through. So like, you know, because I feel like as a parent, sometimes you're too proud to like admit that you're wrong, you know, to your kids. You know, and I've been wrong so many times. Even the littlest things, I try and pull myself on it. So like the other day, before we came to Perth, I was upstairs and I could hear my daughters downstairs, and I heard the way my eldest was speaking to the second one, and it wasn't nice, but they were just playing. I didn't know that they were playing, but I automatically snapped and I yelled down and I was like, "Hey, don't speak to your sister like that. Like if I have to come downstairs, you know, both of you are gonna get it." And then I came downstairs and they're just sitting there, and my little one goes, "Daddy, we were just playing, like we were just mucking around." And like I immediately knew that I was in the wrong, you know. And so rather than being like the parent I would have known back in the day, would have been like, "Shut your mouth," you know, whatever I say, you just you know. I admitted that I was wrong, but you know, it wasn't in a oh, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. It was more of a, oh, I'm sorry because I hear you guys fighting here and there. And so, you know, I heard you guys from upstairs. I thought you guys were fighting. I shouldn't have yelled like that. So, you know, I'm sorry that I yelled, but I'll still bring up the fact that you guys do fight here and there because it's something that they do.
Yeah.
So I try to turn it into like a lesson for them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still apologize that, you know, I've got it wrong. And I think that's really important as a parent is sometimes, you know, even when you know you're wrong, it's really important to let the kids know that you're wrong because it teaches them that we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
And it, you know,
and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to be wrong. Yeah. It goes back to that mentality where like your parents are always right. I want them to feel and learn like, you know, that we're not always right, you know?
Yeah.
It's a big struggle with me and my parents here because, you know, it's the times are different, the generation's different, you know, and like the whole technology and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes mom will do something on Facebook and I'll hit her up and I'll be like, what to get here Facebook? Or, you know, I'll be like, like, you don't need to put that on Facebook, you know, and she'll automatically get eaten and she'll be like, hey, Facebook, you know, stuff like that, you know. They get defensive or you'll try to teach them about something and they'll be like, I get fired in my bigger washing, you know, I figured out life before you. And it's just like, oh yeah, all right, whatever.
No, it's funny. There's something you mentioned. I think that it's really important because you know you said that you felt that when your eldest daughter she wanted to get a job, your first reaction, you know, you got defensive and then you felt like you didn't want to lose that control.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the old tradition, the OGs, like the elders and the parents, they feel like that because they want they want the best for their kids, right? So they feel like the only way they can parent and make their kids, you know, to keep their kids together is by control.
Control. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I feel like sometimes that also comes down to us that when we grow up, we feel like that the only way we can, you know, we can build a family or we can make sure that push our kids to do better is by controlling. But you know, you can still build a structured, respectful house without control.
Without control.
I think being controlling, you know, being controlling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that we have to set the rules and the boundaries, right, to make sure they know the rules and boundaries.
Yeah.
But you know, but you can. I feel like that we forget that as we don't realize that we can, you know, you can build a family and you can build a great relationship without that control, because I see that not only with among us, but also when I see Tongans go into relationships, that's the only way they know how to build a relationship. They try to go out of the man tries to control the woman, the woman tries to control the man, and so man, it's tough to be in a relationship with without a Tongans because we're just trying to control one another.
Control, yeah.
And then I see that a lot, man. It's just it's crazy.
It makes me wonder. Man. It makes me wonder why it's so important to have that control.
I guess it's just like when we don't want to feel vulnerable, like feel like we're weak, you know, because that, you know, that we feel like that, okay, if we try to talk it out, if we try to, especially parents, if I apologize to my kids, then my kids think that I'm weak and then they can do it, they can run all over me.
Yeah.
So they have that. They have that mentality, but they don't know that you can still apologize. There's ways of doing that where you can still apologize. Let your kids know, I made a mistake, but this is how, like you just said right now. You told you apologize to the kids, but then you made it into a lesson.
Yeah.
But they didn't take it as, oh, my dad is a weak dad and I can talk back to my dad. No, you still let them know that you made a mistake, but you also show them the lesson behind it, so they learn from you. They still saw you as an authoritative dad.
Yeah.
I feel like
I really like how you brought up the whole you know, the rules and boundaries, which is, you know, I think that's like I've been talking to you this whole time about how I've been raised up and stuff, but you know, and how it's kind of made me change as a parent. But we were saying that, you know, I've also learned from my parents the rules and boundaries, you know, and like that's something that I have with my kids is like, you know, I'm cool and I'm open with you, and sometimes I'll feel more like a friend than your dad. But there is rules and boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. There are always rules and boundaries.
Because it's not so much that I'm controlling, but at the end of the day, they are kids. They're growing up.
Yeah.
I have to set the rules and boundaries, and like if you step out those rules and boundaries, there is consequences. And when I say consequences, it's not like that. Depending what they do, then it'll be a flick on the ear or that. But it doesn't always have to be a that. It could be a sit down and have a chat and a lesson. Whereas I feel like when I was growing up, the only form of there was only two forms of discipline. It was either you get a beating or they made you feel real guilty. It was you felt like the worst child in the world. And so that's the rules and boundaries thing is definitely spot on when you mention that.
Yeah, and like you said, I feel like a lot of parents they're just afraid that to be seen, to open up and be vulnerable and seen as they think that doing that is a weakness or is to their kids, because they want their kids to see them. Oh, okay, if I show them weakness, then they won't respect me.
That's true. That's very true. When you say that, I think of my parents, because sometimes they coach me on being a parent.
Yeah.
And so dad will say some comments like, "Ayo tati ke poto," like stuff like that, And when he says stuff like that in my ear, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, that's nah, I don't want to do that. So it's I agree with you on that.
Yeah, because it's for me, it's just one of the saddest things I see. Is just is kids, Tongan kids growing up in their household, but they don't feel like they're. I've heard this from my friends. But they was telling me, man, my parents don't love me. I mean, that's how they feel. That's how they feel. Because of how the interactions and the discipline and how the control that the parents put on them. So on the outside, everything looks good. They go to church every single Sunday.
Yeah.
They go to Whakame, Lipaanga. They show up to all the katuanga. So
they tick all the outside boxes.
So from the outside, everything looks fine.
Perfect, yeah.
But then when I'm hanging out with them, one-on-one, it's just ourselves, and I talk to them. They're like, man, I can't wait to move out. My parents, my parents don't care. I have the worst parents in the world, and I'm just like, but as Islanders, everybody thinks as Islanders that we're warm, happy people, we're loving people, but it's sad that there's a lot of kids out there they're living in these homes. They feel that. I feel like that, but it's just because of a lack of understanding and communication between the parent and the child. And if
100%,
and I see that, so I was like, damn, man, kind of rough.
Yeah, it is.
I do want to switch topics real quick, because the one thing I love what you do is you share, you express yourself, and you talk about our culture through TikTok, through humor.
Yeah.
Right, which is kind of cool, right? But like, it's kind of cool because we learn because you make a lot of content, a lot of videos on TikTok about the struggles that we go through as Tongans, but I like how you make it fun. So I do want to talk about. I want to spend some time talking about that. Your rise to fame on TikTok.
Well, my bank account doesn't agree with fame right now.
But I do want to ask, what made you to get on TikTok, and why do you keep making, why do you share what you share, why you create the things that you create, and I just want to have you share about that to everybody.
It's the skits and stuff that I do, especially with the Tongan skits, and it's just stuff. It's experiences that I've gone through, and it's stuff that I feel like a lot of Tongans can relate to. Mm-hmm. It is through humor, but at the same time, it is like showing that it's, I guess, not in a bad way, but it's I feel like it's good to have a laugh about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not in a mocking way, but it's more like I guess in a way. So if something, say if I've gone through something in my household or growing up as a kid, and I've struggled with something, the communication with my parents, and me getting ta'i'd for no reason or something like that. I feel like watching a video of someone doing something that I can relate to, but in a funny manner, kind of makes me feel like, oh, fuck, I guess I wasn't the only one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't just me. That I guess it's more common, and it's just bringing. It's not so much bringing awareness. Sometimes I feel like on TikTok there's a lot of videos that run down the way islanders are brought up, or the way their parents are controlling and stuff like that. You know, and like how unhappy they are and all that, which is totally valid.
No. I wanna say something, and I feel like you brought it up. So, you know how in the beginning when you were talking in the beginning, like I loved how you talked about the stuff you went to your parents, but I also loved how you mentioned to the audience knows, hey, look, I don't hold anything against my parents.
Yeah.
And I love that where you talked about your parents, but at the same time you let them know, hey, look, I don't hold anything against them. This is how they raised me. They can understand it, because and what you said just right. I feel like sometimes I see a lot of the content that these people make about polys. It creates more hate and tension more than understanding. Because the reason why I love your content is you talk about the deep issues, but you don't dwell on the negativity. You laugh about it. And not dwell in to hate your parents more, hate your upbringing more. If that does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and I feel like that's why I use TikTok and Instagram as a humor platform.
Yeah.
I've been asked many times on Instagram and stuff to kind of shed some light on similar to what we're talking about, and kind of be an advocate for like how islanders are becoming a mental health and stuff like that. And I've said no to them, and I've said the reason why I said no is because well, first of all, because I work as a school counselor, and I do my part, as in like, I'm not saying that I'm doing my part and that's enough, but I do my part in terms of like helping mental health, being advocates for students that are going through stuff and all that. But at the same time, I feel like mental health is personally is not something to be joked about. Mm-hmm. It's not something to be. I feel like I don't have the guts to humorize people struggling through depression or struggling through stuff. But I do the island humor is because so that people can relate to it. But at the same time, like you said, the videos on TikTok that make islander and the Tongan way of growing up really negative. I feel like with me, my understanding is like that's all our parents knew. Like we talked about it. That's the only way they know. So if that's the only way they know, what we can get from it now is to change it. We have the power to change it. Yeah. Rather than sit there and like hate
point fingers. Hate and point fingers and blame them for your problems.
Yeah, exactly. And because when it goes back to that communication, and the reason why you feel like you're hated, or you feel like you're controlled, or you feel like you can't succeed in life because of your parents or because of your family, is because that lack of communication that you guys had. And so like I said, man, I was raised very similar to a lot of Tongans, and I felt that I was controlled. I felt like that I couldn't fully do me because I didn't want to be selfish. But at the same time, like now, when I become a parent, I guess the big thing is when I became a parent, I started to see things in a different perspective. And so it doesn't hold me against my parent. It doesn't make me sit there and blame my parents and be like, fuck, you guys stopped me from like living my dream. I could have been All Blacks, but because of you,
hey,
but like, I look like that, and I don't hold anything against it because I know that was all they knew as a parent. So
I want to bring that point again to everybody that's watching, and because that's something I do see a lot with a lot of Tongans. They just have so much animosity and hate towards their parents. They blame their parents, but never fully understanding. Also, like I always tell people, man, like sometimes you gotta put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah.
Your parents. No matter how they raised you, but don't forget that they moved here and they came from the islands and created a life here for you. they did the best they can, and we just understand that our parents are human beings too.
Yeah,
they're not
exactly.
perfect. I'm not perfect either. We're not perfect. Our parents are not perfect. So as much as we hate them putting those standards on us, don't put your standards on them.
Exactly. Yeah.
On them.
It's like it's funny you say that, because it's when I was growing up, my dad is when I started, like, my parents, because they work on the vineyards, and it's tough work, and so, like, when I used to have school holidays, I used to come visit them and help them out, and, like, my dad is he's one of those, he started working in Hawaii, Iate, laboring is just another job for him, and he works really hard, and so, like, when I was working with him, he one of the things that, every time I, like, get tired or want to sit down, he always used to do those ones, like, go ahead, get 40, like, now we can come for you, my guy, and he used to say that, bro, and I used to, like, in my head, I was like, bro, shut up, old man, if I get up and drop you right now. I used to think like that, and I used to hate it. And, like, it's funny because later on in life now, even though I'm not working out in the plantation or working out in Iate or anything like that, those words ring in my head when I work hard towards something. I'm like, those words, like, now for mata. When I have a goal to set and I do stuff, my dad's words are stuck with me. And it's like the same thing with mom, Even though when I was growing up, she'll say stuff to me like ahonaki and stuff like that. And I'll be like, stop being controlling, or stop being, But as I grow up, some of the life lessons they've taught me at the time that I didn't agree with, it's installed, and it kind of really helps a lot. And I'm like, so it's not all bad. You still learn a lot from what they teach, even though if that's the only way they taught was, like, controlling and stuff like that. It's you still. But I guess it depends on your perspective. If you want to focus on all the negativity, you're not going to pick up anything positive from it.
And that's something for me, it's just like, I just want us to grow and learn and live out a better life. And like I said, and I don't like seeing kids and families fighting one another and hating and separating. I want families to stay together, but I also understand that if we want something different, that we have to change. But for me, I always feel like I tell kids all the time, look, your parents always give our Tongan parents, only they did the best job they could with what they had. And I understand that they came from Tonga, no education, no college degree. They came to a foreign country, and some of us can't even do that.
Exactly.
Some of us cried moving to a different city. Let alone try to go to a different country and learn something new. But our parents, like you said, our parents, like, they're not perfect. They did their best. But like it's like, man, like there's a lot of things. Of course, they could have done better, but don't try to, like, disregard all the good things that they gave you. They taught you in your life. Like you said, my parents and I was raised by my grandma. My grandma was we used to call her Hitler. Me and my siblings, we used to make fun of, like, oh, she's Hitler, and we used to call her house like the prison camp. Oh, you made it out the camp? You survived the camp, the Hitler camp? Because, man, she was tough, man. She was tough, but the one thing I can say that she taught me was discipline. She taught me discipline. She taught me all the values I have now. My faith in God. She taught me how to treat people, how to be respectful.
The respect.
Right? The respect part of it. How to So of course, there's a lot of things my grandma did, but I wouldn't be who I am today if it was those lessons, and a lot of those lessons I learned from her. It definitely helped me in my life, right? But then I have to realize myself, like, if I want something different, it's up to me. So that's what everybody out there, man, stop. I just want kids, man, like, stop complaining, stop making excuses. You gotta take control of your life, man. Take responsibility and make something better for your life. But that's something Yeah, I just don't want to. I hate when I hear it. I don't hate it, but
it's just not.
I don't hate it. I just don't like when they put when Tongan kids put everything on their parents. Like their parents was like the 100% the reason why they're not where they want to be in life.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'd minus away like the kids that like got abused and stuff like that.
Except those.
Yeah. But you get kids that talk about like how they got hidings and like how they, it is tough. But I guess it is all your perspective. I guess some kids that grew up in Muli and stuff they'll hear that and it sounds totally wrong to them. They'll be like, nah. But
yeah. So as far as when you I do show your TikTok. So when you started making videos, what was the experience for you? Was it how was the positive and negatives? Was it cool in the beginning? What was the feedback you got from people? What about your own family? I want to ask you about that, because I'm sure a lot of your family members watch your TikToks. What's their reaction?
My kids, they love being in my TikToks. My wife, she's cool about it. At first, it used to be like, she'll be like, oh my gosh, like, what the hell are you doing? And then I guess she started seeing like the followers, and so far, all the comments most of the comments and everything is like all positive, and it's just, which I think that's one thing that still makes me do TikToks and stuff is like, the comments and stuff I get back is always positive, and it's always like, oh, when people say stuff like, oh man, you just made my day, or, thanks for the laugh, or, people can relate to it. Most of the comments I get is never, I'll get the negative comment here and there, stating the obvious that I'm overweight and stuff like that. And I'll be like, oh, shoot, I already know that. But it's funny too, because when I do get a hate comment, most of my followers and stuff will automatically jump up and defend, which is pretty cool. Sometimes I'm like, oh, bro, I'm not trying to like advocate bullying or something like that, but it's pretty cool to see, stuff like that. My family, it's funny because my kids, soon as they do, the thing with me is, I used to be a big, have you heard of Snapchat?
Yeah, Snap, yep.
So before TikTok and all that, I was always on Snapchat, and I do this thing where I always record my kids. I always record like videos and stuff like that. Whenever they do something funny and I see that, I can already see what's going on, I record it. And the reason why I record it and save it is like, those are my memories. Because a couple of years ago, I used to work away, and I used to like go and I'll stay like somewhere for like a couple of days and come back home. And like the best thing to do at night before I go to sleep is like go through my videos and my photos and just have a laugh and like watch my kids. And like, I always record them when they're themselves, not me trying to like stage and be like, you do this, and I'll record it while I'm myself. And I keep that for memories because I store it on my email account and stuff like that. So one day when they are older, and I share it with them, and like all those memories I have. But because I used to do that, and then I started getting a big follow on Snapchat and all that, and then TikTok came, and I started doing it on TikTok. And so like my kids, it's funny because they'll be doing something and I'll start recording. As soon as they see the camera, they're like, great, another TikTok, eh? And I start laughing. I'm like, no, it's not like that. But like my family is really supportive. My friends, they have a laugh too every time they watch my videos. My mom and dad, they get like comments from like, because sometimes my videos will go on the Tongan page, like the must be Tongan and stuff like that. Yeah. And I went to my mom's house one day and she was talking to her mate on the phone, and her mate was like, Nani, your son is funny as. And so mom started watching my video and she started laughing. The only thing mom always says is like, stop swearing on your videos and stuff like that. And, but they're pretty supportive. I've been, it's been, ever since I started TikTok and doing all these skits, I've got nothing but love. Like, opportunities like with you to be able to talk like this. I've gotten like, I don't know, you'll probably see the brand I always wear, that the Docs Fresh. They asked me to be an ambassador for them. I got this guy, he asked me if I could rock his hat brand and stuff like that. Stuff like that is just, it's been pretty cool, just the experience. I try not to get my head caught up too much in it, like, to let it get to my head, like how you said, oh, fame and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I never let that. You know, I run into people and they're like, oh, Mr. Famous. I'm like, nah, bro. Trust me. If you look at my bank account, it does not agree with famous. But I enjoy it. I enjoy posting out stuff. I enjoy the love comments. I enjoy the love, but I also enjoy running into people that see me on TikTok or stuff like that, and they, you know, comments from them just it makes me just want to continue doing it. But when I do post TikToks, I do put a lot of thought into it. You know, like, am I disrespecting this person, or am I, you know, is this actually me as a person? You know, I always want to be genuine on the app. I never want to be you know, something fake. That I'm not, or try to portray something that's not me or my culture, or like, you know. So yeah, most of my videos are just, you know, Tongan skits or island skits, or just me and my kids most of the time. And yeah, apparently people love it, so just go with that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love watching your videos. It like it hits home every time I watch one. I was like, man, I can totally relate because I think the last one I want to talk about, because I think you did mention that you're a counselor, right? Yeah. The school that you counsel for, are there a lot of Palangis and there are Polis there too?
No. So the town we live in, like I said, we live out rural. The only Poly kids are my kids. There's a few New Zealand kids like Maori. Yeah. But not so many. It's more just Palangis and Aboriginals. Okay. And and Vietnamese. I think it's a small town that we live in. The population is probably like 3,000. It's not that big. So not so many islanders. With that being said, when we moved to Brisbane, because Brisbane's like Polynesian capital in Australia, I think. Yeah. I am hoping to get more involved with the Pacific youth. Yeah. I've been looking at some options. I don't know if I really want to work in a school setting when we move to Brisbane. I want to work more in a community setting. Okay. But I'm trying to start next year, because I only got a bachelor's degree. Yeah. So I'm trying to do my master's. Because here in Australia, in order to become a psychologist or like a proper counselor, you have to have a master's degree. Master's degree, yeah. So yeah, that's my aim for next year. Probably mid next year is to go back and do some studying. So I do want to ask you, because you are a counselor and you have a chance to connect with the kids this generation. What do you see? What do you, based on your experience interacting with them, like what's the challenges they go through that they struggle with the most, based on your interactions with them, based on what things they share? Like, because I'm always interested because the cool bit about you have your own life experience from how you grew up in your generation. Now you have a chance to experience and touch the next generation. So what's the most common thing that you see that they talk about, especially when it comes to like what they go through and what they struggle with? And I just wanted to hear your experience with that. I think, especially with the high school students that I have, one of the struggles that I see that's very common is, I guess, the struggle of finding themselves, like who they are as a person. But because of the influences of like social media, the influences of technology that they have nowadays, the standards of being the right person is really high. It's the standards of being a good person depends on how much materials you have, how much on how your body looks, There's so many influences through social media. There's so many influences through, the world is at our hands with a mobile phone. Like, you just jump on Instagram and you go on the news feed of it and you see the amount of like, say, women, the amount of women that jump on with just the bikini and stuff, and like the amount of likes and the amount of followers they have and stuff like that. And I get a lot of students that come in and like they're just lost as who they are as a student that's growing up. But not only are they lost, but they're trying to find themselves on the wrong source. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like they're trying to base their value as a person on who they are on social media, or who they are,
likes and
or who
followers,
their friends. Yeah, likes and follows, or who their friends are. Like it's so many influences. I feel like maybe it's not that different, but I feel like back in my day when I was in high school, social media wasn't really that's when people were still around and stuff like that. The biggest thing you got to worry about is getting the 3 hats, and you don't have to worry about looking good and being good. I got kids that are really good on social media. They portray this life on social media, but then they come into my office and they have minimum social skills. They don't have the actual skills that make you outside of the office or outside of school a good person. They can't hold a conversation, and then they wonder why they don't have many friends, or they wonder, like, real friends, or they wonder why they can't get along with their parents. It's because the effects of social media, the effects of technology, and all that kind of stuff. And so it puts them in a lonely state of mind, I guess. I get a lot of kids that come in and they're like, oh, I feel so lonely. I feel like no one likes me, or I feel like, but they value themselves through how they portray themselves on social media.
And what people think, eh?
Yeah, of what people think of them. So I think, that's one of the biggest things I find right now, students and young ones, is you always, you have so many influences, but you're investing too much on those influences, and you're trying to base yourself on what those influences are doing to you. Whereas, it's not necessarily true. Your likes and the comments and all that kind of stuff don't actually dictate what kind of person you are.
Yeah, I think, I think same here. It's the same here in America. Social media has become the culture. It determines the values and how people. Everything in our life is all centered around social media, and I see that a lot. And that's one thing. I think that's one thing. I think I heard it. The good thing about social media, it connects to everybody.
Yeah.
But the bad thing about social media, it connects you with everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, I remember somebody said that in a speech. The good thing about social media, it connects with everybody. But that's also the bad thing of social media, because we tend to focus too much on what other people are doing instead of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on what people, what people look like, focus on your own happiness and being healthy yourself, and not caring too much. And it's funny now because I guess I grew up. I remember people.
Yeah.
I remember people, but there was a time in my life that there was no social media, and I was still living a normal life, and I was still having good times with friends and everything. But that's something that's I guess that's I just see it a lot within my friends, and everybody's. It's more important to them to how their relationship looks like on social media than in real life. They're more important to them what people think about them on social media than in real life.
In real life, yeah.
So
it's funny because I actually I've got comments from people that I run into in the public that see my TikTok or follow me on TikTok,
yeah.
And when I have a chat with them, it's funny because when I start chatting with them, some of them are like, "Oh, bro, you're exactly like the dude on TikTok, the way you behave and the way you talk." And I'm like, "Yeah, like, bro, what you see on TikTok is me. Like, I'm not just a funny person on camera, and then the camera goes off, and I don't have social skills or anything like that." And so I feel like a lot of people, like, it's that, I wouldn't say pretending, but it's about that competition thing. And it's funny because I get caught up in it too. I'll see a family, going out on a holiday and stuff, and I immediately, not that I'm trying to compete with them, but I immediately want that for my kids. And so, like, we made this trip out to the city because we live in the bush. When we come out to the city and stuff, on the way here, I had all these thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna take my daughters to this, I'm gonna take my daughters to that." But then you open up your wallet and there's only so much you can do. And so you sit in the car and you start thinking to yourself, you're like, "Fuck, pretty crappy dad, you know. I don't know if I can, but it's because I've set my standards to those things that I've seen, you know. And I've actually the first day we were here, the first 2 days, I was telling my wife, I was like, man, I wish I could do so much for the kids. Like, you know, my wife was like, you know, this is, she's really supportive. She's like, this is the best we can do. And if you look back in the backseat, the kids are happy. They're not complaining about anything. So stop trying to be too hard on yourself. But I think the reason why I'm hard on myself is because I've tried to compare it to someone else that I've seen on Facebook that's come and done all these fun stuff with their kids. And so, you know, it gets to me. So I feel like it's always a competition, even though you don't think of it as a competition.
Yeah, and also I remember there was somebody on, somebody reached out to me and asked me a question because people that follow my content, you know, I make a lot of videos. I'm all about like inspiration, motivation. I do have TikToks too.
Oh, give you a follow-up.
Yeah. So I do. I've made some TikToks as well, but remember, I'm really vocal on my page. You know, I make videos of myself just talking out loud with my, share my thoughts on what I feel like, and then show my personality. And then I remember somebody hit me up, hey man, how can you be yourself on social media? Which was kind of like a messed up question. I was like, what do you mean? Wait, you're telling me not to be myself? No, but she was this. It was a female. She was like, most people don't show their true self on social media. So, I mean, I guess that's what she wanted to do for herself. She wanted to be able to express how her own thoughts and ideas and what she felt like, but she just didn't know how to do it. She was afraid. So she kind of looked at my page and saw what I was doing. So she asked me for advice. I just told her, look, I don't care what people think. That's what I told her. I don't care what people think about me. You know, this is my own. I just be myself, and then what you see on social media, what you see is what you. I'm exactly the same person off camera. You know, I'm positive, and I believe in positivity. I believe in towards growth and bettering yourself, empowering other people, helping out, inspiring people. I believe in being vocal and speaking up. That's how I am, and the thing is that you gotta. A lot of people. I stopped living. For me, it was just I just stopped caring what people thought, and stopped seeking the
approval
and validation from people, so I can feel better about myself. So. Because I remember, I don't know if you've done this before, but have you ever posted something on social media or a picture, but then you took it out?
Oh, I still do it.
Yeah. You're right. I've done that, but I stopped doing that. I remember back in the day when I realized like everything I posted on social media I was doing it for somebody else. Like I was doing it for. I look back at it. I never posted because it was something for me. So that's something I just told myself, you know what, I'm gonna stop posting things so I can please everybody. I'm just posting things because these are the things that makes me happy, that I want to share with the world.
Yeah.
So, and I just told her, you just be yourself. You can be yourself on social media, but you gotta stop caring about what people think.
Yeah.
And then when you start doing that, then things become a lot easier.
Bro, I 100% agree, because that's how I do my videos and stuff. I'm happy doing it. Like, you know, people always like comment and say like, where do I come up with these ideas, and where do I like, bro, I'm like, it's just stuff, you know,
being yourself. You just be yourself.
My wife laughs at me because at nighttime I'll go through my own TikTok and I'll just laugh at my own video. You know? But like I'm like my number one fan. Not that I'm trying to sound cocky or anything, but like,
but that's how it should be.
And I just laugh and I enjoy it. Yeah. So like when I do the videos and stuff, it's me being myself, but you enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like I said, I'm just enjoying being myself on social media. Like, I'm not trying. I just when you find, I mean, for some people it might be hard because depending on what you went through in your life and the bullying or whatever, some people have gone through a very hard time, so it's hard for them to be themselves. But I feel like that's something. Yeah, that's true. I think growing up as a child, that's the biggest thing. We're overall trying to figure out ourselves and who we are.
Yeah.
But the one thing I always tell people is like the only way you can find yourself is stop caring what people think, and then the faster you do that, the faster you can realize, my jokes are funny. The stuff that my own mind, your own ideas is pretty good. Then you actually realize, you actually have something that you can you can do what makes you happy, and then and not kind of just hold yourself back a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we've gone through a lot of stuff. We talked about a lot of stuff, man.
No, it's good, man. It's good.
Man, it was a good podcast, man. I love everything you shared, especially what I loved what you shared today was like we talked about a lot of the deep rooted issues that a lot of Tongans go through in our culture, and I think in my other podcast we did talk about culture a little bit, but I didn't in this specific podcast. I like how you broke it down and went deep into it, and I feel like that's something that a lot of Polynesians and kids that are watching this they need to hear. So I really appreciate the time. I know it's early out there.
Man.
And I hope you go ahead.
Yeah, it's good. Like, I wasn't, not that I was coming into this expecting anything, but I wasn't. It's funny how all the questions and what we're talking about just brought back so many memories, and like, it's kind of made me reflect back on a lot of things, and I'm like, far out, like, all that stuff was there, but I just never really,
you weren't aware of it,
yeah.
We were mature enough.
And I started sitting and thinking. I was like, far out. Like that story about my rugby shoes. Like, it's funny because like I've never thought about that for like the past almost 15 years now. Like,
Yeah.
And then now when I think back about it, I'm like, well, little things like that. But yeah, man. So thanks for having me, man. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thanks for getting up early. Thanks for getting up early, and thanks for making time. The one thing I would want to say, and I always ask every person on the podcast to end the podcast, but just do you mind just sharing some final words and final thoughts for everybody's listening? Share them some little bit, some your own personal inspiration to them, because I know a lot of people listen to your podcast today, listen to your story, and I know you touched a lot of hearts today, and I know you inspired and empowered a lot of people. So if you can just leave some final thoughts and final words with them, then I think that'll be great.
Yeah, sure, man. I guess I'll just try to summarize everything we talked about. I guess if there's anything you want to take back, or if there's any advice I can give, is just how important communication is, and it's also important to know that you're important. Your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, and your dreams and stuff like that. Especially for our Tongan and our Pacific Islander youth growing up. Despite what you're going through in life, or whatever way your parents or your elders are raising you, it's really important for you to know that your thoughts, your feelings, everything, you as a person is valid, and you're important as a person. And another thing is just life is about perspective, man. It's always, there's always good and bad, there's always good and bad in this world. It's just, it really depends how you want to look at it. Take the good, leave the bad. But as cliche as it sounds, you just got to keep going on. Just that's the only way, is to move forward. Change is not a bad thing. Getting out of that comfort zone is really important to grow as a person, as you've mentioned before. So if there's anything, the people that are watching this, that's my 2 cents for today.
Malo, Fafigao, malo.
Getting into my langa now.
Malo. But yeah, thank you. Like I said, just from my side, thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity. And I'm just very grateful for like this. Cause I feel like it's cool that, man. I mean, think about it. I probably have never met you ever, or even talked to you if it wasn't for like social media or TikTok.
Yeah,
So that's why I feel like it's so cool that social media. The good thing about social media and TikTok, that it connects all of us.
Yeah.
All Polynesians and all Tongans together. So I'm gonna end the record button, and I'm gonna talk to you right after.
That's all it is, man.
Okay. All right. Give me 1 second.